Hello again, and welcome to Huddle Psychology once again. Hope you're keeping well. We had our last session on one of the most insidious forms of manipulation called psychological triangulation. Today we are going to deal with another manipulative technique or tactic called the silent treatment. And this is going to be the last of the manipulation tactics that we are going to consider, at least for the time being. And then we'll move on to other interesting topics in psychology for everyday life. So, without wasting more time, let's kind of jump into understanding what the silent treatment is all about. Now, you must have come across this in your daily life, within your family, at work, within friendships. You must have experienced someone giving you the cold shoulder or the silent treatment from time and again. But seldom do we really understand what is actually going on. From the surface level, when you look at it, it seems not very dangerous, not very manipulative, not very destructive. But if you study it in greater depth and look at it in more detail, the silent treatment can be a very destructive form of psychological control and manipulation. So, like always, let's begin with a definition, a working definition of what the silent treatment really is all about. Silent treatment is another kind of manipulative technique where someone decidedly or deliberately ignores or refuses to communicate with another person on purpose, ignoring them, not speaking to them, not giving any eye contact or affection. And the reasons behind it are not just for cooling down tension, but the reasons are far more insidious and manipulative. So that's a working definition of what the silent treatment is about, and you will find it in all sorts of relationships, in romantic relationships, in family relationships between, say, for example, a parent and a child. You can see it in workplaces between managers and subordinates. You can see it in friendships. So wherever there are human relationships, just like other manipulative techniques, you tend to find the silent treatment as a weapon that is used for expressing anger, dissatisfaction, and the need for control and manipulation. So that is really what defining the silent treatment is all about. And let's look at a few working examples, like we always do. So in a romantic relationship, a partner might refuse to talk to you for days after maybe a small disagreement or an argument, giving you the cold shoulder for a long time, leaving you feeling isolated or lonely, and you are left unsure about how to fix the situation. In a friendship, a friend might stop replying to your text messages, again, leaving you thinking about what really happened, what is really happening, and how you go about fixing it. In workplaces, a coworker might completely stop or avoid speaking to you, just maybe because you unintentionally offended them in a meeting or something like that, and that makes collaboration and working together more difficult in workplaces. And in families, maybe a parent can give the cold shoulder, can give the silent treatment to their child because he or she may be trespassing on some rules or did not meet any expectations. So these are all examples of silent treatment in action. So as I mentioned, it can happen in many situations and contexts. So those are some examples. Now let's really look at why people actually use the silent treatment as a weapon. It is, in effect, actually weaponizing silence. Silence at times is much needed. It can be even nourishing. It can give you space to cool down from an argument or a disagreement. That is part of healthy relationships. But sometimes silence can be weaponized for manipulation and control. So, why do people do it? As many of the manipulative techniques that we've looked at, number one reason is to kind of exert control over you. So, when someone gives you the silent treatment, essentially they are exerting their power and their control over you, wanting you to chase them for attention and resolution of the particular situation. So, the number one reason is to exert control. Second reason is sometimes to avoid conflict. Sometimes people are unsure of how to deal with emotions or tough conversations, so they retreat into silence, leaving you befuddled or confused as to how the issue can be resolved or deliberated on. So that's another reason why people use the silent treatment. Another reason is that sometimes people use it as a form of punishment. The essence of that communication is that you hurt me and now I'm going to make you suffer. Because when there is prolonged amount of unwelcome silence, it is suffering for you on the receiving end. So somebody who has been hurt inadvertently by you, you might not have intended to offend or you might not have intended to hurt someone, but they retreat into silence in order to punish you for their own pain. So that's another reason why people resort to the silent treatment. And finally, it can be a learned behavior. Many people grow up in contexts and cultures or in families where silence was used as a method of retreating from having conversations or resolving conflicts. And so they grew up with that as the default mode, the default method to deal with issues. So instead of resolving the issues with open communication, they learned that early on, they learned that maybe silence is the way forward, and then that becomes a learned behavior, and they continue to exhibit that into adult age. So these are some of the reasons why people, individuals, resort to using the silent treatment as a manipulative technique. Now, how does it affect you? Well, firstly, a large amount of silent treatment done often enough erodes your sense of self-esteem. You become, you tend to start feeling that you're unworthy of attention. Maybe your needs are not important. So if you are constantly given the cold shoulder and you're constantly on the receiving end of the silent treatment, it can slowly chip away at your sense of self-worth and your self-esteem. So that's one big impact that it has on you. Secondly, it can cause emotional distress. So imagine you are in a situation, you might have a problem at hand that requires resolution. You have an issue that needs to be discussed and resolved, but the partner on the other hand, on the other end, is giving you the cold shoulder and is giving you the silent treatment. It causes frustration, it causes anxiety, and in some cases it can even cause depression. So it can cause you significant amount of emotional distress and disturbance when you are constantly on the receiving end of the silent treatment. Finally, or before that, fear of rejection is another big impact that it has on you. When you're on the receiving end of a cold shoulder, you slowly develop this sense of fear that maybe you're going to be left alone, maybe you're going to be rejected, and that fear of rejection starts building up in you, and that can cause more emotional turmoil and distress going forward. So that's another major impact on you because of this kind of manipulation. Breakdown of trust is a major problem. Obviously, if there is no open communication and there is constant silent treatment, it slowly chips away at trust, which makes it even more difficult to develop healthy relationships going forward and healthy connections going forward. And finally, toxic patterns. Silent treatment can be the beginning of much deeper manipulative toxic patterns of behavior, such as gaslighting and some of the other techniques that we have used, especially in abusive relationships. So silent treatment can lead to greater and deeper amount of psychological manipulation and toxic behavioral patterns, especially in abusive relationships. So these are some ways that the silent treatment can have a deep negative impact on you. Now, having said that, how do you recognize whether you are on the receiving end of the cold shoulder? Well, firstly, you will notice, or you should notice, is that there is intentional ignoring from the other person. So the other person intentionally ignores to communicate with you, to talk to you, and keeps away from having an open communication channel, and that's a clear sign, a telltale sign that there may be silent treatment going on. Secondly, withholding of affection. So the person will withhold, will stop normal kinds of interactions with you, greeting you in a normal way, avoiding eye contact, withholding affection from you. These are other signs of the silent treatment, something to watch out for. Then there is stonewalling. The partner can simply crush down any kind of conversations and stop you from having any meaningful conversations to resolve any kinds of issues that may be at hand. Stonewalling is another pattern to watch out for. And finally, prolonged silence is a telltale sign of the silent treatment. In other words, the person remains silent, avoids speaking to you for much longer periods of time than is typically required in a healthy relationship. Like I mentioned before, in healthy relationships, taking time to cool down, to have a thought about what you want to really talk about, how you want to resolve the issues, are all signs of healthy relationship patterns. But silence going beyond that is weaponizing silence against you. So, prolonged periods of silence is another sign that you need to watch out. So, these are some ways that you can use to recognize, these are some symptoms to look out for in order to recognize whether silent treatment, whether you're on the receiving end of the silent treatment or not. Now, having recognized this tactic, the next question is, how are you going to respond to it? Now, it is challenging at times to identify silent treatment and to respond to it, but there are ways that you can deal with it. Firstly, it's important for us to stay calm. It's important for us to not have an emotional reaction to somebody else's silent treatment, because that's only going to make matters even worse. So it's important to take a very calm state of mind, be calm as possible, and approach the situation with a clear head in order for you to actually try and resolve the situation. So staying calm is super important. Then acknowledge the behavior. It's important to acknowledge the behavior by saying something like, perhaps, I have noticed that you haven't been speaking to me Can we talk about what's going on? So that's a open and mature way of acknowledging the other person's behavior and trying to open a door towards open communication. So that is something that you can do as a way to respond to this kind of manipulative tactic. Thirdly, set boundaries. It's very important, as in all other manipulative techniques that we have looked at. Setting boundaries is very, very important. And I think even in this case, you can very clearly communicate that silence is not a solution. Prolonged silence is not a solution to resolving these issues. If we want to solve this problem, then I need an open communication channel. You can clearly communicate that to the manipulator. So that is something that you can do. Then focus on solutions. Always try and focus on solutions. By perhaps saying things like, I would like to know your own perspective in order for us to move on or move forward. So that way, you are not getting embroiled in ego, you're not getting embroiled in attacking the other person for such behavior. You're trying to focus on creating solutions. So try and acknowledge the behavior and try and focus on the solution by acknowledging the person and telling the person that I'd like to know your perspective on the issue so that we can move forward together. So that's something that we can always try and do. And then protect your emotional well-being at all cost. So once you set boundaries and once you start having an open conversation, or at least prompting for and prodding and nudging for solutions, those are ways that you can keep your maintain your own emotional well-being without getting entangled in the emotional turmoil that you can get caught up in the middle of a silent treatment. So these are some ways that you can respond to the problem. And finally, we always talk about helping someone who's already going through such difficulties. So in this regard, if you know someone within your family, within your office, or in some relationships that you know of who are on the receiving end of the silent treatment, then it's important for you to listen without judgment. Because remember, the silent treatment person or the person who is using or weaponizing silence is not willing to listen and is giving the cold shoulder. So it's important for you to have a non-judgmental conversation with whoever is on the receiving end and acknowledge their feelings and validate their feelings and emotions. Encourage open communication. As I mentioned before, encourage that person to have an open communication channel, even though there is stonewalling, even though there is continued silent treatment. Try and nudge your friend to have an open communication channel with the person who is actually trying to manipulate that person, and validate their feelings. It's important, remember that the silent treatment person, the manipulator, is not validating your friend's feelings. So it's important that you sit beside them and validate their feelings and tell them that you do deserve to have a respectable relationship and you deserve to be heard. And it's important to assert that. It's important that you pass that information and that knowledge to your friend and validate their feelings so that they feel at ease when they are going through such a problem. And finally, offer resources, as many as you possibly can. Perhaps books, articles, you can refer them to our YouTube channel or our blog, and even to external help. Therapy can be a great place. Therapy can create a safe space for someone who is already on the receiving end of the silent treatment to express their emotions and concerns, and the therapist may be able to help them process their emotions better than an average person. So offer as many resources as possible, and that's another way that you can help the person who is on the receiving end of the silent treatment. So basically, that is what I wanted to share about the silent treatment. As mentioned before, it is an insidious kind of manipulative technique where somebody just deliberately withholds communication and affection towards another person, primarily to exert control and express anger, and this can cause significant amount of emotional distress. It breaks down trusts in relationship. It can erode your sense of self-worth and self-respect, and it can be devastating if you are on the receiving end over a long prolonged period of time. So it's important that you recognize the patterns where you can watch out for signs such as deliberate ignoring or stonewalling, and you take appropriate actions by setting boundaries, trying to open up on an open conversational channel, and also finally to seek external advice and help if you need to process your emotions and try and help you to get back to a healthier sort of a relationship. And it's also important to remember that if the treatment continues unabated for a very, very long time, then it's important for you to let the other person know that this is not an option, this is not the way to resolve problems, and you might even want to restrict or limit your interaction with the person if it's going to cause you significant amount of emotional turmoil and disturbance. So this is what the silent treatment is all about. And like always, there is a much bigger and more comprehensive long form article on our blog website, huddlepsychology.substack.com. Do visit our blog, read the article for greater depth of analysis on what this technique is all about. You will learn a lot more there, along with, as always, suggested references and readings, extra readings, if you want to learn more and explore the topic in greater depth. So please do that. Do subscribe to our Substack blog website, because it's completely free. It'll keep you updated on whatever. It's a much deeper exploration of whatever we are making in video format. So hopefully that will help you understand the topic in greater depth. So that's all about the silent treatment in this session. And I also want to add that if there is anything that you would want to talk about or discuss in person, please do feel free to write to me on my official email address, rahul@huddlepsychology.com. You'll find that on my website, huddlepsychology.com. But here is the email address as well. Do reach out to me and introduce yourself if you want to have sessions with me. And I look forward to receiving your emails and connecting with you, and will obviously try and make the best effort to support you if you have any challenges that need addressing. So that is all about the silent treatment in this session. And this is the last of the manipulative techniques that we are going to tackle. From the next session onwards, we'll look at various other interesting topics in psychology. And so stay tuned for that. So in the meantime, do watch our videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, like and share our videos as much as possible so that we can spread greater awareness on all these topics among as many people as possible. So until next time, keep flourishing. Bye bye.